Hey everyone, welcome to Business Unchained, where entrepreneurs and business owners come together to power up on their journey to greatness.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any financial decisions. Clients of Greenridge Wealth Planning may maintain positions in any securities discussed in this podcast.
All right, guys, as CEO of Fortune Title, her first year, she doubled revenue and she's positioned the firm's ascent for national exposure as opposed to just locally. She's very active in a number of associations. She's a foodie looking to hit all 50 of our states, and eventually she's going to purchase her dream home in Italy. I introduce to you the CEO of Fortune Title, Nicole Timpanaro. All right, super psyched to be back here behind the mic. I know it's been a couple of weeks since Luch and I have done this, but I've got Nicole here, and what I'm super excited to learn from you today is a couple things. I want to hear you took over a family business from your dad.
Yes.
I want to hear a little bit about your experience in taking that over and what the relationship is like with you and your dad, if you're okay to sharing that.
I am.
I want to talk a little bit about you doubling your revenue for the first year, understanding a little bit about what were the key measures that you kind of employed in doing that, what worked, what didn't work, what kind of surprised you along the way, whether good or bad. And then I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're doing to grow your national exposure. Again, what's worked, what hasn't worked, because a lot of people here that are listening to this podcast, it's about the struggles that you overcome.
Right.
And you find success through trying different things, and some things work and some things don't. And, hearing a little bit about your journey and what you've done, especially as impressive as it is, I think it'd be important to hear. I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
What about for you?
So I got started, I'm a third generation title professional, I guess you could say. So my grandmother was an abstractor. My mom got into the business with my grandmother. My dad fell into it and then went from abstracting over to a title insurance company.
Now, what is that? Explain a little bit about abstracting and about title agency.
So a title abstractor is like in the county courthouse. So they're the ones like photocopying all the books and getting all the records, right? And that search is usually sent to a title insurance company, and then it's analyzed and a commitment is generated or a title report. So I literally grew up in Hudson County Courthouse. I used to color tax maps for fun.
Ooh.
No.
Color by number?
No. Kind of, I guess. They're all numbered. But I literally wanted nothing to do with the title industry because I was just born and raised in it. So I wanted to do my own thing. I went to Villanova, got a degree in business management. I minored in
I love that. Another Pennsylvania graduate.
Go Wildcats.
Villanova fun is what we used to call it.
Okay, well, obviously you didn't hang out with actual Villanovans.
Well, it's because we didn't really have...
Where did you go?
I went to Lehigh.
Oh, enough
So we
explained.
didn't really have the sports.
That's okay.
It was a little bit of jealousy.
So who's no fun? I don't know.
A little bit of jealousy.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. But I went to work at ADP and started really basic doing customer support, worked up to project management, and got my master's from Stevens in the management of information systems. So I was very tech forward. I always wanted my own business. My whole family's entrepreneurs on both sides. So it was natural for me. And at ADP, we were building this new product. So it was kind of like starting a business in a business. But when I got pregnant with my daughter and I had her, the hours were just a lot and I wanted to be home with her. So I ended up leaving ADP.
Was that what you thought of when you wanted to open your own business, was just having that flexibility, or what was the drive?
Just to run my own bit. I just always wanted to, I'm a little bit of a control freak, just a little bit.
That's weird. We've never heard that characteristic from anybody
from any entrepreneur, right? But I wanted to create something. I wanted something that was my own, right? So I had a lot of different ideas, but having my daughter really just changed my entire universe. And I knew I needed to make a change. And I asked my dad, I'm like, look, I can't work these hours anymore. Can I temporarily work for you and figure out what my next step is? And that just, being there, I just started fixing things, Now,
had he tried to get you into the business prior, or was he excited for you to come in?
No, he was like, sure, you want to come in? Come in. It wasn't like he was trying to pull me in. It was kind of his thing. I had helped him with stuff in the past, with contract negotiation and reviewing stuff that was more IT related. But I was like, this is totally temporary. And while I was there, I just started fixing process flows and doing little things. And eventually our office manager came up to me and she was like, hey, you did a great job with all the county accounts. She's like, when are you going to like take over the corporate accounts? And I was like, well, that's your job. And she said, I know. She's like, I think you should do my job and I should go back into title. And I was like, I hadn't really considered it. So my father and I sat down, we talked about it. And I was like, look, I can do the business side of the business if you want me to stay. I don't want to ever write a purchase commitment. I don't ever want to attend a closing. I don't want to issue title reports. I just want to, I'll business you, basically. And he was like, fine, let's do it.
So like a COO. Like I'm going to come in and take over operations. I'm going to
kind of more like, I think more like CEO, like business end of it, because I didn't want to run the operations part of it. That was kind of his thing, right? Like your title, but like he didn't have policy, right? Like there was no employee handbook. There were no productivity report. There was a lot missing on the financial end because the woman running the books, like she just didn't have the experience. She was his first employee that he just trusted a lot. And at the time that I came on, it was like a $4 million company and it was over her head. And I think that's why she was like, I really want you to start doing this stuff.
Okay, fair.
Fair. So it was a little rough in the very beginning having a father-daughter relationship and then kind of like a
new baby
business partner relationship,
and
right?
A new baby.
And a new baby. Right. The new baby part actually was easy. My daughter was like the most amazing baby ever. That's what was like, I'm going to just have more babies because she was so great. Did coaching to like help us. I did coaching. I got an executive coach to help me manage both of those relationships and segregate them, right? So that we had the father-daughter relationship when we were out of work and we had the business relationship when we were in work. And my father is one of the most brilliant title professionals I know, especially in the foreclosure space. I mean, he's very well known in New Jersey for that. We have the majority of the market share because of that. And, other title professionals come to him with issues in that space because that's just him. And I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for him because, he never went to college. He's not an attorney, but he's got a lot of attorneys calling him every day, asking him what to do.
Okay.
Which I think
good spot to be.
I think is pretty cool. But he didn't have like the business end of it on lockdown, right? So, he just assumed everybody was doing a good job. And then I started creating productivity reports and we're identifying, look, there's some people who really aren't carrying their weight. And a lot of people in the office kind of knew that, but it wasn't, pointed out. So I just started fixing things. We had
So measurables in order to determine what everybody's input was or
right.
output was.
Like we didn't have that before anywhere in the business. So even when it came to like the searchers we were getting our work from, right? Everybody was charging us a different rate for the same product. And in the foreclosure world, your rates are on lockdown, right? So like this search is $350, period. So our profit margins were all over the place. But like my dad never looked at a profit margin. I don't think he could tell you the calculation if you asked him today.
As long as it was working and there was money in the bank.
Right, exactly. Like I have money in the bank, I'm doing okay. So I negotiated with 2 of our search vendors that did the whole state because at the time we had 21 vendors, 1 for each county. So administratively, like that's just a lot too. And I said, okay, this is the pricing that I would like. And if you guys give me this pricing, I'll give you all of our work and just split it right down the middle. And that saved us $250,000 in 1 year. Right. Yeah. So
proportionally from a $4 million business,
it's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It was not so bad.
Yeah.
And it was for me like a really proud moment because my father paid for my college. He helped pay for my master's.
Well, now you did. You reimbursed him.
Bingo. So I went in with the profit and loss and I was like, look, I have officially paid you back for my college education. So that was like, I just really love that. And for the revenue, I mean, I didn't work big miracles. What I did was we didn't have a collections process. So nobody was checking to see how much money we were actually owed. Money was coming in, all the bills were getting paid. So it was just fine. And I developed reports and, started looking at who owes us money, how old is the money.
What did you learn from that process other than people owe you money?
You have to ask for your money. People aren't just going to give it to you all the time. Just because you do the work doesn't mean they're going to be like, oh, you did work for me. Here's your money. So a lot of the conversations I had initially with clients were like, hi, I'm like, you owe us all of this money and I need you to start paying me this much per month. And they're like, oh, well, you never asked before. Like, right, but I'm asking now. And, we need to get you within this time frame. Like, you should be paid up to within 6 months for this product or 60 days for this product. It's variable in that industry.
Right. Consider it a 0% loan up until now, but money's due. Let's go.
Right. So just collecting old money, we went from 4 million to the next year, 8 million.
Oh my God.
Just collecting old money. It was crazy.
That's insane.
Like we didn't stay at 8 million because there's only so much old
Stacia,
money.
we collected all of our money.
There was only so much old money to be had, right? But like getting it all in, it was a huge difference for us.
Yeah.
And then we just kept that going. Most title insurance companies don't have receivables because they don't do that type of work. They're doing insurance, at which case you're getting paid at closing, right? So there's really nothing to receive because you get paid at the completion of that work. In the foreclosure space, you do your report and you're getting paid 60 days later.
Gotcha.
For some reports, maybe 6 months later. It depends on the product.
Maybe 12 months later.
Sometimes.
Or longer.
Sometimes I hold on to stuff for 1 to 2 years, depending on the situation, because in the REO world, when we do our preliminary title report, we don't get paid until that property closes. And we're doing our report once the banks take ownership, right? So that could be a 2-year time span.
So I want to just kind of jump into the moment when you, just from collecting, you double your revenue. What was was Dad?
Very happy.
He was happy. Okay.
Well, yeah, it was a lot of money. So,
well, that could go one of two ways in terms of I'm very happy, but holy crap, am I feeling something of a sense of embarrassment, or am I feeling like
No, he didn't. He was really great about it all. There were some things that were a struggle, like exempt versus non-exempt employees versus hourly versus salary. Like to him, those were the same things and they are not, right? So when I went through like the employee classification process and I'm like, look, this person's in production, like they are non-exempt. They have to get paid overtime. To him, they were on salary, which means no overtime. I'm like, you can have them on salary, but they still have to get paid overtime. So
you coming in and dealing with those nuances was a huge help for him.
Yes.
What were some of the coaching things that you guys went through? Because I think that's one of the hardest things for family businesses. And, we hear this with a lot of clients, a lot of people that we talk to. You go to Thanksgiving, it's really just another board meeting. You go to vacation, it's just another meeting that's just away from home. A lot of people aren't able to really delineate between personal time, family, and family time, family business time.
That takes a lot of work and intention and calling each other out. So we have a lot of family business in my family. So it was like that in the beginning. The dinner table was 100% talking about Fortune Title. And that gets exhausting to go to work and then after work just to continue talking about work. It's like you don't ever get a break. So we had to make a strong divide and set up rules. And, when we were at work, we had to behave professionally. And my family is like ball busters to the max, right? Like all we're doing is...
Could never get that from your personality.
I know, right? It's very shocking. Like we just crack jokes all the time. And we had to pull back a little bit with that in the workplace and come out of the father-daughter relationship and go more into the like partner relationship. And when we were home, we made a rule that we were not allowed to talk about business at family dinner. And that took a while to like enforce, right? So we told everybody in the family, this is what we're doing. And it was our job to call each other out because you naturally slip into that very easily. And we were like, oh, no, like we're not doing this. Like we're not talking about Fortune. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So it took time, but now we're really good at it.
It's amazing how much more, and I'm just going to say this from my personal experience. Growing up, everything was family business.
Yeah.
Everything from...
Same.
We're going to a wedding to we're going to have, just regular dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And after my dad passed and I had to kind of take control over everything and we decided we were going to keep it and I reorged everything. The one agreement that my sisters, my brother-in-law and I had was no more family business when we're together as family.
And how nice is that?
You deal with that shit in the office, not when you're, at the poolside.
Right.
And everybody calls us out if we end up doing it. Like if I'll see my brother-in-law and I'll be like, hey, did you ever hear from so-and-so? And my wife will go, no, family business. And I'll be like, you're right. I'll text you. You could tell me on Monday.
Right. Well, because you think of it because you're in the moment.
Right,
but
right.
I do that too. Like I'll just like send an email out and like, hey, just like, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No serious conversations. No, but it's freeing. It actually, now we enjoy seeing each other and spending time. It's not just a continuation of what transacted at the, at the office or
right.
in
It's
business.
nice to have a personal life.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt. Like it was nice to be able to like relax and leave work at work, which is hard to do as an entrepreneur, I think, period, because we're so connected to our businesses. At least that's how I feel. Like my business is my baby. So it's hard to stop thinking about it. So I feel like you have to be very intentional to let that go.
So you've made some notable changes. I mean, notable changes just from the sense of processes. You were able to pull in and double revenue just by collecting money, primarily foreclosures, to now it's only half your business and you've diversified out. You were super hyper local in New Jersey, and now you've got national exposure. Obviously, that didn't just happen with a snap of a finger.
Oh, no, it was a wiggle of the nose, like I love Jeannie.
Okay, so consulting, I guess she's charging for consulting now. If you guys need any consulting, she'll be by, she'll wiggle her nose, and all your dreams will come true. No, but seriously, I'm sure that, and I know for myself, I go into a project and I have these certain, these certain assumptions that things are going to unfold one way or the other. And ultimately, I know what I want to happen, but I might fail and trip over my feet and have to pivot and take a different course correction approach to something. What were some of the bigger things that you found yourself learning through the process that you just didn't anticipate?
So 2009 was when I kind of first started running the company. And
Great timing.
No kidding. So at the time, foreclosure
Sorry, that was sarcasm. I was just trying to feel like we were part of the family.
Oh, no, I'm there with you. I am so there with you. So 95% of our revenue was foreclosure. And litigation came up around the notice of intent that went up to the state Supreme Court. It took a very long time to get resolved. Now, in the foreclosure universe, you only get paid when the file hits a certain bill point. And the notice of intent's at the beginning of the process. And nobody knew what to do. Nobody knew if they could reserve it, if they had to start from scratch. So the files were all put on hold, which means nobody was getting paid. So all of our revenue kind of stopped. We had very little revenue and we had no work because we didn't, nobody was moving these files forward. So one of the first things I had to do was lay off like 50 to 75% of the company. And that included my mother and my brother and my uncle and my aunt. And we were very strong family business.
Now,
and
was this before you stopped talking about business at the dinner table or after?
This was, no, we hadn't gotten there yet. Right. And my dad he has like the biggest heart in the world. And for him, like letting somebody go, even laying them off is just really difficult for him. So I took that on. And it was a unique kind of layoff because we knew this was very situational. So not that you're supposed to do this, and I don't advise any business person to do this, but I told them just like, if you can, hang out on unemployment and wait for me, because as soon as this gets resolved and the business starts moving again, we can bring everybody back and it'll be fine. But that made it very glaring that foreclosure, as profitable as it was and, kept this business going for 9 years without really much other work, we couldn't rely solely on that. Like laying people off is horrible. It is, for me, like the worst type of termination because these are good people that you want to keep that you can't because of a financial circumstance. So I didn't want to be put in that position again. And that meant I had to diversify our income. So I said to my dad, we need to do more than foreclosure. We need residential market share. We need commercial market share. And my thought process since that day has been, if I can get this business to be a third from each industry, then, regardless of the state of the economy, one of them is going to be doing well. A lot of them are cyclical, right? So like if residential's doing really well, foreclosure's down. So usually it's on opposing cycles, and that should provide more stability
Some
from
balance.
us.
Yeah, some consistency.
So I rebranded, and, my father at this point had grown the business purely from word of mouth. He didn't do any marketing. He didn't do any sales. Everybody just knew, like, if it's foreclosure, you got to talk to Nick. So this was a completely new venture for us, going out and like selling and going to conferences and, trade shows and all that fun stuff.
So what were the biggest changes that you saw in the business in terms of operationally? What were some of the hurdles that, I guess that ops was more your dad. So from your seat, what were some of the hurdles that you guys hit in both the contraction of the business as well as the pivot and then the expansion?
The one good thing about foreclosure is the files are awful and super messy. So what we were really good at was resolving clouds on title, AKA like issues with your title. So the transition from foreclosure to like residential and commercial wasn't that bad because we had a lot of experience, but we did have to train ourselves on working with a different type of client. So one of my current business partners, Amanda, she had been with my dad since the very beginning, like longer than me at Fortune. And I kind of pulled her up because she's phenomenal. She's our COO. So she was incredibly instrumental in that. And we had an attorney that we still do a lot of work with, Kathy Franz, who was phenomenal and really helped us and trained us and, got us into that mindset of what that was going to be like. So it was a transition. Sales was really hard in the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing. I never sold title insurance before. And I think I was a little naive about how things were done. So it took probably a year or two for me to kind of get rolling and figure out like what my sweet spot was for that.
So you guys are off and running to the races, national exposure. Talk to me a little bit about how you went from, all right, we contracted, now we diversified, now we're expanding, and what's next?
So I was at a conference for my title production software, RamQuest. And
now, is that a third-party vendor that you use, or is that something that, okay.
It's a third-party vendor. So that's where we do all our work, right? Like that's our database. That's where all our files are stored, like everything. A member of the American Land Title Association, the head lobbyist at the time, had come and did a presentation on Alta and talked about like what the group did. So every title agent has to have an Alta policy license. That's what enables us to issue our policies. You can go a step further and become like a full-fledged Alta member. And that gives you, it's much more expensive. The license is like $250 a year. The membership is based off of your revenue.
And what does that exactly do for you?
A lot, a whole lot. So Alta is like the advocacy for the title insurance industry. So they're the ones lobbying Congress and Senate for any issues that are affecting our industry. But it also is like a ton of education, a lot of conferences, a lot of intel, peer relationships with other CEOs and owners throughout the country. And
peer relationships like a mastermind, a way to
not
converse
formally, but yeah, that's a lot of what I get out of it, right? So he just talked about what Alta does, and I was super inspired. I'm like, I need to check this out. I went to my first conference, Alta One, which is their big annual conference, and there's like continuing education credit all day and all different presentations. And I'm just like bouncing from like class to class to class, like soaking up all this knowledge. And I was like, this is amazing. And I started meeting some really incredible people. Not many other people in the state of New Jersey do foreclosure, but across the country, there are a lot of people who do foreclosure. So a lot of the issues that I was facing with my business, I made a friend with this guy who's in Wisconsin, and he does a lot of the same work. And we sat down and like talked about all these different things. And he's like, yeah, why don't you do this? And he's just freely giving me all this information to help me with my business. And it was amazing. And now I'm very involved. I'm on a number of committees, and it's for me very rewarding because like we're making actual changes in our industry. So I'm on the...
Now, is that how you ended up going more national? Did you create partnerships through that, or what was
it? It started there. Yeah. So it started there. I have a lot of...
It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
Right. Well, like I got this one huge client who was a Florida foreclosure attorney, and they were doing their own title. It's different down there, but they had a lot of New Jersey and Pennsylvania business. At this time, we were in both states, and they needed a partner. And they knew a friend of mine from Alta. Our underwriter had suggested me, because foreclosure in New Jersey equals Fortune Title. And they called my friend Jamie, and they're like, do you know like this Fortune Title lady, Nicole? And he's like, oh my God, yes, I love her. Like, because we were friends by this point. And that's how we got that contract. And it was a lot of revenue for quite a few years. It was really great. And I don't think that would have happened fully if it weren't for all of those relationships.
So what's interesting, and I think it's more like a newer train of thought is, the world of kind of coaching. So you had brought in a coach to help you with dad and just the taking over the business, coming in and just working together as a family.
Yeah.
I think over time, we start to either create these processes from experience where we trip over our own feet, we learn things here and there. Some people prescribe to a certain methodology. Hardly are you ever really just taught how to run a business. What has been your guiding light, so to speak? Has it been mostly just tripping over your own feet? Have you followed any sort of processes that are books, or do you or people's? What is it that you do? Do you have a coach on business? What is it that got you to where you are today?
I did work with a business coach. I learned a lot just from, I think, watching my dad. I read a lot. I watch a lot of videos of entrepreneurs.
Anything
I kind
that
of
you
look
like specifically?
everything.
Just try to consume.
I just like try to consume as much as possible. And a lot of it is, I think, learn as you go and deciding what kind of company you want to have, what kind of company you want to be. My dad started the company. It was very family oriented. For him, like everybody who ever worked for our company was just part of the family. He's very kind, very heart forward. And I have a lot of that in me. And I think like my first thing is just be kind. My second would be fair. If I'm going to do something for you as an employee, I have to be willing to do it for everybody else. Everybody should get the same treatment. Everybody should know where they stand. Everybody should know, what they need to do to get the next level. It's the same. And then I think one of the bigger things I learned as I was going along was to pair that with backbone. So in the beginning, it was very hard for me to do like disciplinary stuff and to be critical because I wanted to be everybody's friend and I wanted everybody to like me. And when you're the boss, everybody's not going to like you, especially when you're making tough decisions. And I had to become okay with that.
It's amazing how the need for approval can really hinder your ability to become successful at certain points.
Yeah, I had to learn how to let that go. Not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. Everybody's on their own journey, doing their own thing. So if you don't agree with me, that's fine, but you might not work here anymore. Because this is my house. And this is how I want us to live. But
now, is that a sense of culture that you instill? Do you focus on that with your existing employee base, with the way you present your company?
Yes, culture's a huge thing for me. So we even have it built into our.
And what does that look like?
So we grade everybody on culture and performance when we're doing reviews, right? We use a simple 1 to 5 scale. And we review like their production, like how they're doing at their job. And we also review their adherence to our culture. So are you being kind? Are you being respectful? Are you being a team player? We look at ourselves as one single unit, right? We're Fortune Title. We're not this department and that department. We're just one big team. And, it's ride or die. Like we're all in it together. And if somebody's not connecting with that, then it's probably not the place for you. I've let more people go because they don't fit with the culture than because they weren't able to do the job.
So, it's funny you say that because it's one of those things, you can't teach people to be kind. You can't teach people to be respectful necessarily.
Well, there's character and there's behavior.
And you can teach people how to do the shit that we do every day. For most roles, finding those people is what ultimately is going to determine your success. If you have the right team and the right support around you.
I feel like knowledge is easy to teach, right? Nobody off the street knows title insurance. So most of our people actually came to us not knowing anything about title. So we taught them. You can't teach somebody their character, right? Your character is your character. So whenever we have like a cultural issue, our first thing is trying to identify, is this a behavior and the character's there, but the behavior's bad? or is this a character issue? Because if it's behavior and they're willing to work on it and we're willing to coach them, you can fix that. But if it's a issue of character, you're not changing somebody's character. If we're not aligned on that respect, then it's just not a good fit.
So you had mentioned, you have to have that backbone. Did you develop that backbone over just, I don't know, the older you got, the more mature you got? Was it, were there just a couple of times where people took advantage and you just said, the hell with it, I'm going to get a little bit more stern in my positioning? What was, what kind of got you there?
I got burned really bad by an employee who I thought I had a great relationship with. She worked right underneath me, and she was out. I had to go into her email and get some stuff, and I found a lot of correspondence of her saying a lot of not nice things about me to other employees, and also, giving away confidential information about employees. So it was a big issue. I was very personally hurt because I thought we were friends, and to the point where I wasn't even comfortable doing the termination. So my executive coach did it for me. And after that experience, I said, I don't ever want to be in that position again.
So what did you do to change to make sure that, what did you learn from that?
One, that business and personal has to be separate for me as the leader of the organization. I love all my people. I really do love all my people. But I had to come to terms with the fact that that doesn't necessarily mean we're friends. Right? You can love someone and have a really good relationship in the workplace, but that doesn't mean they're your personal friends. And at the end of the day, my number one obligation is to Fortune title, right? So if I don't keep Fortune title in a good position, that could hurt everybody, right? So that's the mindset I get into when I have to do a termination or a layoff. I'm protecting the integrity of the company. So as uncomfortable as it is, and as tough as it is for me to do sometimes, I'm protecting everybody.
If you were to go back to that sweet little girl that graduated Villanova University and say, here's a top 3, holy shit, you'll never believe that this happened over the past X amount of years. What are the 3 things that you learned that are just the biggest highlights where you can go back and you were like, man, that was a huge shock from who I was in college to being able to learn this about me or my ability or myself or life or business, or what would that be?
I think the first thing would be, I'm a very rose-colored glasses kind of person. So I love everybody. I think everybody's wonderful. When I meet people, I think it's my superpower and also my kryptonite, that I'm very good at seeing a person's potential and finding the goodness inside of pretty much anyone, right? And that's great. And I love that about myself. But where it got me into trouble was that would be all I focused on. So when red flags happened, or when people in my life were like, hey, maybe this person's not so good, or I'm seeing red flags, I would dismiss it. No, you don't know them. They're really wonderful. And I'm not great at that. I'm getting better. It takes a while, but I'm not naturally good at assessing a person's character and seeing those signals. So now I really listen to my people, and I kind of have my people vet people.
It's amazing how that's a gift and a curse, because it's a gift because you could say, you know what, I'm not going to hold anything against people. I'm not going to prejudge. I'm not going to characterize.
Right.
I'm always going to look for the best in people, but that could come and bite you in the ass in the back as well.
Oh, I've been bitten a lot in the ass. So, yeah.
And some people give up on it. Some people flip the coin and turn 180 degrees. And I think that's even a worse situation to be in, because now you're jaded and now you're turning your back to everything and every opportunity to create a relationship because you're pissed off because you let everybody.
Well, that's when the pendulum swings too far to the other side. So I can't do that. I don't have that in me, right? So I've worked very hard to try to stay somewhere in between. And a lot of that just means really listening to my people and not being so stubborn, because I'm a little stubborn. Have a little bit of a hard time of people telling me what to do, but I'm getting better. I'm working on it.
Hence why you run your own business.
Yeah.
Terrible employee. You just don't take direction well from people I don't trust.
Seriously.
Full respect.
Respect's a big thing.
What else is a big standout thing that you've learned about yourself, or you've overcome, or you've experienced that you can go back and reflect on?
Not being so much of a workaholic. So
Now, how do you deal with that?
it's really hard. I'm getting a lot better. I'm a very hard worker. I love to work, so that doesn't help either. So like if, I could work 24/7 and be fine.
What is it about work that you love?
I don't know. I'm an overachiever, right? So like even in school, like I needed to get an A, so I want to be the best at everything, and I want Fortune to be the best at everything, and I had to learn how to like respect my personal time as well and like care for myself.
Isn't it funny how everybody talks about balance and workaholism and giving, being able to kind of like disconnect. And I have the same struggle, right? I love what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I put so much energy and effort. And there was a moment in time where I had to take a step back and go, I love what I do. And I'm so dedicated to work, but I'm not dedicated to taking care of myself, spending time with my family, doing the things that for me personally are going to ultimately make me live longer, make me better at my job, really give me the purpose, not just to be the best.
Yeah. So for a while, like my life was like work, parenting, like work, parenting. Like there was really no me time whatsoever. Like I prioritized myself last. And when I got divorced, like then I had my kids half the time and I had a quiet house and time to fill. I realized like I had no hobbies. I had like
work.
I'm like, what do you do in your free time? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I
like,
work.
What do you like to do? I'm like, I don't know, eat, like go to a restaurant. So it was a major adjustment for me. And I realized like I needed a personal life and I needed to take care of myself because I was also having a lot of anxiety. I was having depression and I just kept kind of like putting everything to the side because I wasn't taking care of myself. So I made some drastic changes in my life to make sure I have more me time. And me time might be hanging out with my kids. It might be going out to friends. It might be Netflixing and binging like all day and, eating chocolates in bed and not doing anything. And that's fine too. Not on a regular basis. But I did things like I shut off all the notifications on my phone. So, because I'm a psycho. So if I see like a little number on my phone, like I need to go clear that.
To go back to a flip phone. I'd kill.
Just
Like,
turn your notifications off. It is
to a flip
life-changing. I turned all my notifications off. So I don't know if I have new email unless I go in my email. So now I decide when I want to look at these things. And I stopped checking my email over the weekend because I'm not going to work on the weekend. I stopped checking my email when I went home for the day because I'm going to disconnect and I'm just going to be with my kids and give that time to them. And if I'm not with my kids, I'm going to give that time to me. And I'm just going to, relax, go for a walk.
How long did it take you to get over the guilt?
Which guilt? I have so much guilt.
The guilt that one typically feels when they're like, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit more selfish and pay attention to me and not focus on my work.
So it was hard to like not be that like immediate responder anymore unless I was like really at work and on. And it was an adjustment because I did at first have like a lot of anxiety over like, oh my God, I'm not going to check my email. And then I go in on Monday and I have like 400 emails that I have to clean up real quick.
What if somebody needs me? I'm so important that I need to make sure I'm on top of everything.
You have a cell phone. They'll call you. They'll text you. I still pick up my phone.
No, I'm saying that's usually the internal struggle.
No, I
right?
hear
the internal
you.
struggle of like,
right.
I got to get to it.
Amanda and I started saying like, well, we're not curing cancer, right? We're issuing title insurance policies. Nobody's going to die if I don't get back to them within 30 minutes. If it's a couple hours or if it's the next day or if I get to you on Monday, that's okay. If it's that severe and urgent, people will find a way to get in touch with you and they're going to call you. They're going to text you. It's okay for an email to sit. I think we've gotten into a place in society where everybody wants this like instant response all the time. And it's okay to not like give into that. It's okay to say, no, I'm going to respect my time and my space.
So where do you see the evolution of your business going? Where do you see you taking Fortune title? Where do you see your industry? What are some of the things that you're looking in your forward-looking, not your rose-colored glasses, but your forward-looking glasses, and preparing for as you stare down the barrel of AI and life and kids getting older and everything that's going on around us?
I think AI is going to help automate a lot of the things that a human being does not need to be doing in my business. I think it's going to be instrumental in me growing the business without having to necessarily grow staff, right? We have an amazing group of people. So Amanda naturally doesn't want to hire anybody else ever again because
it's perfect. Can't ruin perfection.
Right. Like it took us a long time to get here and everybody's wonderful and we just don't want to mess it up. Right. So I think that's going to help. I think, remote closings are legal but they're not really being actively used. So I'd like to see that become more prevalent because with online signing and online notarization, it's just efficient, right? Continue expanding, have more work in different states and just keep growing. Feel like I'm always in growth mode and eventually getting Fortune to kind of run more on its own so I can pursue other things that I'm passionate about.
Now, what do you think, just real quickly, what's your outlook on the real estate market moving forward? For people who are curious because you're in the real estate industry? I mean, we're in a really weird market. And I think part of what got us there was they put a moratorium on foreclosures, but not just the inception of new foreclosures, which is what usually happens. They stopped everything. So even files that were in process, like pre-COVID, those stopped. Sheriff's sales stopped. So normally when you have an economic downturn, the inventory gets higher because you have foreclosed properties coming on the market. And what's happening right now is normally when a property's foreclosed and it goes to sheriff's sale, probably about 80% of those properties go back to the bank and maybe 20% go to third-party bidders. And right now, because there's so little inventory and because there was no foreclosure activity for a good 2 years, 80% are going to third-party bidders and only 20% are going back to the banks. So that REO inventory hasn't really hit the market. So we're still in a seller's market and the rates are high. And that doesn't usually go hand in hand, right? Like usually they're opposing. If I had a crystal ball for rates, oh my God, I would make $1 bajillion. They're not great. They're also not horrible. I think people forget that historically rates have gone up to like 18, 19%. That's a bad rate. 7-8% is not a great rate. Well, it's that recency bias. It was just 2 3/4. Why would I want to pay 5?
If that ever happens again, I will be really shocked. An average rate is 5 to 7% if you look at the rates over time, right? Yeah. So 5 to 7 is not like, oh my God, the rates are so high. It's actually pretty average, right? It's pretty normal. And we're on the high end of that. But, you marry your property, you date your rate, right? So you buy.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So you buy a property at 7%, rates go down to 5, you refinance, you have a new rate. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. We're still having a decent spring, summer. You always will in this industry because people are just buying and selling.
They're moving
more. They're moving. We need inventory.
Moving, shaking, rocking, rolling.
There's a lot of things. But then you also have like a lot of hedge funds buying up a lot of properties and holding them and renting them. And that's a problem too. So there are a million factors that like go into this right now. And, eventually the rates are going to come down and we're going to get another little refi boom because everybody's going to refi. But the bigger issue is inventory. And I don't know what's going to fix that problem yet.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I know that we've kept you here for about an hour or so. So appreciate you coming in. I love the conversation. I love what you're doing. I love the energy behind it. I love the sarcasm. And I really appreciate you coming on. Guys, that's it. That's a wrap. 15. Oh, where can we find you?
Headquartered in Roseland, 39 Woodland Road. Stop by and say hi. And then we have offices throughout the state too.
What about digitally? Any digital footprint?
Digital, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. TikTok.
All right. So Fortune Title, look for it online. Stop in. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Episode 15.